Hey chillers, welcome back to my channel. So today is Wednesday, which means it is Spooky Day. So today I am continuing the Reddit scary story I started called The Pool Closes at 6 p.m. In the last episode, last installment, we met the main character and he or she, I don't remember if it was a he or she or not, but they got this job because they were visiting this pool every single day, no problems. And then all of a sudden they started having to close the pool. And then they got their job at the pool and they met a little demon or ghost or something. Alright, so on to the next part. Thanks to everyone who wanted to make sure I was okay in my last post. I'm writing this after coming to the pool tonight, before anything crazy happens. I didn't sleep at all after I'd gotten home. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes and started to drift off, I could hear that echoing laugh and see that impossible skin-splitting smile. Come 6 a.m., I had given up and sat on my couch clutching my coffee like it was my last shred of sanity. Around 7, I got another text from Mr. Carls. Oh yeah, that's right, we met Mr. Carls. We found out who Mr. Carls was. He's the owner, the person that asked him to ask our main character to work for the club. When you're ready, meet me by the clubhouse. I'm sorry again. If you just want to collect your money and go, I understand. The very thought of going back to the pool so soon freaked me out. How many times had I swam in that water, passed through that same spot that she had stared at me, unblinking, smiling, laughing? I wasn't ready to go back. Actually, what I really managed to do was text my real boss and say I couldn't do any work from home today. Something came up. Left it vague enough to not have to lie and sound like I needed to be institutionalized, but firm enough to not be asked questions. I read over what I wrote for you all once, twice, 3 times. Each time I could see it so clearly that I had to close my computer and sit in the quiet to make sure the laughter stopped ringing in my ears. The 3rd time I read it, my doorbell rang. God, if that's what a heart attack feels like, I never want to feel that again. It jarred me into reality. Only when it rang the 2nd time did I decide to be brave for 10 seconds and check through the people. Mr. Carls? I called through the door. My voice was shaking pathetically, and I had the image of a helpless girl in a horror movie calling out to her killer just for a moment before he turned his face toward the people and smiled. Hey, glad you're home. That is so loud. Sorry for the music, it's really loud. Hey, glad you're home, he responded. Can we talk? I brought your cash. I glanced at the clock. It was around noon. He must have gotten tired of waiting. You can put it under the door. Are you sure? He fidgeted a little, his round face scrunched up like he was trying to convince himself to either stay or go. I figured you'd want to know what was going on. I'm uninterested. Of course, it was a lie. Hold on just a second. Sorry, I had to fix my music. The wrong song was playing. Where was I? I'm uninterested. Of course it was a lie. I had a million burning questions. But I was also desperately tired, completely terrified, and about 10 words from breaking down into tears. He frowned. His frown pulled his whole face down. The way this man emoted tugged at my heartstrings so badly that I had to let him in. I couldn't help it. I hate seeing people being so... I hate seeing people being so upset. When the door opened, he scuttled inside and shut it behind him. Thank you. Here's your money. I took the envelope and didn't bother counting it. So, are you okay? I think he really meant it. He had real concern over me. So, yeah, I started bawling. The round man patted my shoulders as they shook with the force. I crumpled to the ground and he slowly struggled to kneel down next to me. I was too tired to feel awkward about it. I'm sorry, I joked out. I haven't slept or eaten. I was so freaked out. I couldn't leave. I was locked in with her. and she kept laughing, and I don't know. Why didn't you tell me? He looked ashamed. I don't know. I haven't had to hire someone who wasn't family before. I was so quick to close the pool because I didn't know how to find someone new. After Joshua left, it was all I could do to convince Mark to stay. It took me an embarrassingly long time to piece together these new names. It's obvious to me now. Joshua was the weekend lifeguard that quit, and Mark was the weekday one. I just stared at the ground. I didn't like that answer. So they're your sons? Nephews? My sons, he hesitated. They both knew about Sophia because they were around when the accident happened. They agreed to help keep her contained. But Joshua wanted to go to college, leave the town, and I finally had no argument against him doing it. What accident? I looked up at him. He did that thing again where he seemed to stare right through me, not looking at me at all, but seeing something far away. We sat quietly for maybe 5 agonizing minutes before we started speaking very slowly. About 8 years ago, Sophia and her mother lived in these apartments. Her mother was in the process of divorcing her father, and Sophia liked to come to the pool to stay out of the heated household. Joshua and Mark played with her in the water nearly every day that summer. The days started getting shorter and the sun started setting earlier. I guess Sophia thought that the fighting was worse after dark, so she started going to the pool later. One night, her parents were so busy screaming and fighting a pointless fight that they didn't notice her walking right out of the front door. Must have been around 8 or 9 p.m., right when the pool was closing. My sons were headed to the hot tub to get out of the house, so they saw her walking to the pool. They hated seeing her so sad, so they decided to play in the water with her. He shook his head and was quiet for another minute. I barely allowed myself to breathe. I didn't want to break the spell of the story he was telling. They were just older boys. They roughhouse in the water. It's normal. The way they were playing was no different than any other time, but I guess when they dumped her into water, she had taken some water into her lungs. I don't know. The doctor said that even though she came up for air, she'd got enough and that she was drowning, even above water. Dry drowning, they call it. His voice lowered. When the boys decided to go home, she wanted to swim for a little while longer. They lingered in the hot tub. It was dark. The pool was technically supposed to be closed, and she just wanted to float on her back for a little while. She loved that. It made her feel peaceful. His eyes refocused on me. The boys said that when they encouraged her to go, she wasn't acting right. Irrational. Kept laughing. Didn't want to stop floating. She kept coughing, but the boys thought it was from all that laughter. Eventually she stopped, and asked the boys to help her get out of the pool. They jumped in, but she was gone so suddenly. They didn't know what to do. They left her there and ran for help. I think Joshua blames himself, even now, for not at least trying to pull her out. It's hard to say if she was dead when they jumped in, or after everyone came out, when they heard them screaming. But all it took was a little bit of water in her lungs for her to drown. I felt a chill down my spine. The idea of drowning was scary enough, but slowly drowning while you're not even under the water? Even thinking about it now, I fear ever taking a sip of soda the wrong way and letting it get into my lungs. Is that why she's laughing in the pool at night? It was the obvious conclusion, but it sounded ridiculous coming out of my mouth. I shook my head at myself, but he nodded. She wants help out. I hugged my knees as he adjusted his position, clearly uncomfortable on the ground like that. She wants to help out, he repeated, but there's something wrong about her. Her smile is wrong. She doesn't speak like she did when she was alive. It's like it's Sophia, but not. And I just don't want any other children having an accident. And I fear that Sophia isn't happy being alone in the water. Another shiver down my spine. She definitely felt sinister last night. The smile was what really got to me. It was just a simple accident. What would make her haunt the pool? He didn't answer. Slowly he wobbled up into a standing position again and straightened out his polo shirt. I'd rather let people enjoy the pool, have an escape from whatever is happening at home. Sophia needed an escape. But if I don't have someone to protect the pool at night, I can't keep it open. I'd sooner fill it with cement than let another parent suffer such a terrible loss at my pool. Something about that clicked to me. Here's this older, chubby man with red cheeks and a receding hairline who just wants people to enjoy something like this little girl that he feels responsible for. I get it. I really do. But I can't be there again. I felt ashamed saying it. I thought I was going crazy. I couldn't leave. I couldn't call for help, and it felt like she was tormenting me. I'm sorry, Mr. Carls, but that's not some sweet little girl in the water. He closed his eyes and took a breath. Listen. She can move the water to create mayhem around the tables, and she can laugh and make you feel like you're the only one. Make you feel like you'll only hear that water for as long as you live. She can beg you to let her out and make you desperate to help her just to make it stop. But in the 8 years I've been making sure she's kept safe, she has shown me one thing. He opened his eyes again. She can't leave the pool. I was expecting something more. It wasn't really sinking in. Yeah, that's why she asks for help. No. What I mean is, if you don't go into the water, she can't touch you. She can splash at you and whip around the leaves and gunk and everything else. But if you don't reach into the water, she can't touch you. She can't make the water touch you. She can't do anything to you at all. So, what you're saying is, if you can deal with her laugh and her begging, you're completely safe. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. I told you $20 an hour. I can afford 25, but that's me maxing out. That's nearly what I get paid to manage the grounds here. But I can't keep my son here to help. He wants to move on with his life and not be reminded of what he saw. Please, think about my offer, and I can promise that you'd be safe. It's good money. But if I can't keep you, I'm going to close the pool before another accident happens. And so I showed him out the door, not accepting the cash in his hand, and went back to gripping my, now cold, cup of coffee. I was thinking about it over and over. I could tell myself it was like high-stress babysitting, but she wouldn't let me ignore her. I mean, I'd spent over an hour last night trying to ignore her laugh, and it paralyzed me with fear. And while I understood it at first, I was starting to let my anxiety make me skeptical about Mr. Carls. If the pool was so dangerous, he would have cemented over it the day he realized it was haunted. Why was he so protective of it? I'd picked up the guilt in his voice before. It felt very real, but something about what he had said was artificial. I always prefer to watch drama unfold from a safe distance, sure, but this would be shoving my face into something that my anxiety told me was much bigger than myself. At about 4 p.m., I texted him, $25 an hour, and you keep your ringer on and answer me if I call. If you don't, I leave. He texted back, thank you. I went in at 5:45 p.m. on the dot. I ushered the few lingering kids out. I cleaned up the messes left behind by the innocent and oblivious pool-goers. I sat down in the lifeguard chair, and now I'm just waiting. I've been waiting since 6 p.m. and it's currently 8:45. It's dark, and I can already hear the splashing sounds coming from nowhere. And when she finally decides to visit me, I have a few questions I want to ask before she starts tormenting me. And that ends part 2 of The Pool Closes at 6 p.m. Okay, so my theory is, from this, okay, I get that she's dead, obviously, and the boys feel guilty. Did Mr. Carls have something to do with it? I guess I'll have to find out in the next installment. Alright. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up so I know. Please follow all my social media down below in the description. I will link the story down below so you can go and follow it yourself. And you can click my bell to subscribe to my channel. Part 1 to the story is in an iCard. It'll be in an iCard above at the beginning of the video. Well, yeah, you know. And my last video is right here. Alright, we'll see you guys on Monday. Peace out, chillers.